September 1st, 1939. Nazi forces invade Poland, initiating World War II and beginning their ethnic cleansing of Europe. In October of 1939, a Nazi edict required that all able-bodied Jews in Warsaw must register for labor duties. The following year, the German governor. The ghetto was simply a section of the city that was walled off with brick and barbed wire. It was comprised primarily of housing blocks and was split into two sections, one for the wealthier Jews and one for the poor.
The Warsaw Ghetto eventually reaches a population near 450,000, and the Germans instate what they call the Grand Action, or the mass deportation of the Jews and eventually the liquidation of the ghetto.
Initially, the Jewish population put up little resistance, but the change came when the deportations began.
At first, most residents thought that those that were being deported were being sent to the labor camps or to other ghettos further east, but by the end of 1942, the truth of the mass extermination had reached Warsaw.
The bulk of the resistance force of the ghetto was comprised of young men 18 to 25 years old. Most of the weapons they had access to were stolen from the German soldiers, bought from outside Polish resistance, or handmade. They were armed with little more than pistols, Molotov cocktails, and grenades. There were multiple resistance groups within the ghetto. The primary two were the ZOB and the ZZW. The ZOB was commanded by Mordecai Anowlix and comprised the bulk of the resistance with over 500 fighters at its peak. The opposing Nazi forces numbered over 2,000 and were very well armed. They had access to tanks, armored cars, flamethrowers, automatic weapons, and mortars.
When the fighting came to an end, the Nazis reported a total over 56,000 Jews had been captured, around 14,000 had been killed or executed in combat. General Stroop also reported a meager loss of 16 casualties and 85 wounded on the German side, but there is a possibility that Stroop altered the numbers to embellish his accomplishments. The Nazis used two primary methods of forcing people from the bunkers: flooding and smoke grenades.
Many Jews were caught in the burning buildings and would subsequently move to the upper floors and throw mattresses and furniture out of the windows and try to use them to cushion their falls as they leapt from the flames. Once the rebellion had been quelled and the ghetto was mostly destroyed, General Stroop ordered the destruction of the Great Synagogue of Warsaw as a symbol of his victory over the Jewish resistance. News of the resistance in the Warsaw Ghetto spreads and inspires acts of defiance in other death camps and ghettos, but nothing that amounted to that like the Warsaw Ghetto.